Thanks for being with us. It's a Tuesday, and on today's program, in case you didn't notice, it is the first week of February, and that means it's time to celebrate White Cane Week. We get to how you can take part in it. Plus, later on, let's find out what's going up on AMI's favorite sports show, Parasport Nation, when Alex Smythe joins us in just a little bit. Get your guide, pick up your cane, and let's go.
This is Kelly and Company.
Appreciate you being with us. Remember, you can check us out via YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube page to enjoy content from the program at any time. Always love to have you follow us, no matter where you're doing it. We'll get to some of the ways throughout the program. Nazreen Abdul-Majid will join us in a little while. But first, it's an honor to welcome in my next guest as I was discussing the White Cane Week content that is out there and available. Time to get some real details. On Feb 3rd, 1946, the CNIB and CCB jointly proclaimed the first White Cane Week in Canada. Yay, fellas, yay! To this day, White Cane Week has occupied the same space on the calendar, the first full week of February. And it's since then maintained its original purpose, focusing on the abilities of the blind and low vision community instead of emphasizing the negative stereotypes of blindness as a print disability. This year, White Cane Week is celebrated from February 2nd to 8th, 2025. CCB National President Jim Tokas has all the specifics for us. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelly.
Always wonderful to get a chance to talk White Cane Week, Jim. And as we get through this interview, you and I will share some times of the past, some of the beautiful benefits, and some of the things we see, and so many different things that get to happen. And people who are first being introduced to this, ladies and gentlemen, hang in. It's a lot of great information, and I'm sure a lot of it you'll be very surprised at what maybe the week has in store for people, what kinds of things are going on. Jim, I'm going to start with you, though, with this one. Why do you value your work at the CCB?
I think the education and awareness and seeing the chapter growth across the country. As you know, we're made up of 80 chapters across the country, and each does kind of their own individual education and awareness projects during White Cane Week, which our organization basically, supports and sponsors, and we encourage them to get out into the public and do this educational and awareness model.
So I kind of gave a little bit of a brief as to when the week was originally declared, but how did White Cane Week become an initiative of the Canadian Council of the Blind?
I think it was just. It started off as getting to know what exactly the white cane was for, educating the public what the white cane was for, and it kind of grew legs from there. Thinking that who best to set up booths in malls or in hospitals, and educate the public on the trials and tribulations that people with vision loss actually have to go through, and to also let the public know that although we have an invisible disability, we can still manage as human beings and do what we have to do, and we just do it a little different way. So,
I know, Jim, a lot came from the war blinded, and we look at the dates of when the week was declared, and we know that so many things were extended to the war blinded post World War II. But I also think of a simpler time. As much as people may not have been aware of blindness, and you had to spread it, information about it, by being visible, by word of mouth. But there was a time that probably then, and maybe for 30, 40 years after that, where it was easy to get in places, to promote, to have a chance to stop, talk to people, to be invited to Lions Club's events and so on. It's a busier world now, and there's certain challenges that if you're going to stay at a mall, if you're going to be at a hospital in the eye division or anything like that, it's a lot harder to get those permissions. Does CCB feel this is a bit more of a trying time that way? Or as the lessons over the years of, hey man, it's harder to get into these malls, here's what you could do, and pass on that information to each other when these weeks come along, that would be part of all the navigating, part of all the building promotion?
Yeah, so it's true that over the years that it has been more difficult to access malls, and we found it especially difficult during COVID, and since COVID, there has been a pushback with malls, and so we've just upped our insurance, and many chapters are still use the malls, especially I think in the larger locations we're having problems, but in the smaller locations we're able to access malls. But yeah, and it's a very rigorous process, but it's initiated by our national office, and bless their hearts, they do all the insurance work and everything else for our chapters. Nice. So yeah, it is. Times have changed, and the CCB just changes along with the times. So
that's really nice. When we think of the sighted people out there who are listening and watching the program, we think of people who have family members who may be new to low vision or blindness circumstance. Do you want to talk a little bit about the gambit of things that happened this week that in their communities they might find, hey, this is going on with this particular CCB chapter near me? Anything that jumps out at you that you've noticed this year, or even anecdotally over the last few years, ideas people have had of celebrating this week?
Kelly, thank you. I'd like to talk on that for a minute, because some of our chapters have just become so inventive and so involved in this that it really blows me away, and makes, at the same time, kudos to them, because however you can attract the public, it's wonderful, and I think that I was on a BC division call on a Sunday, which kicked off White Cane Week, and they were talking about wet and dry AMD. So we have some of the medical side as well, which CCB has always been involved with. The medical side moving forward, and protection of the eyes, and protection of blindness, period, as we partnered with Fighting Blindness Canada. We've really taken a turn into that phase, but we have to every once in a while just keep reminding our chapters that where our roots are, and our roots are really in sports, recreation, and alternative sports that people with vision loss or blindness are always able to do, which they did before, and so it's a little bit of a change of life, but it's just a little bit of a change of ways of doing things, and that's what we like to promote is. Life doesn't stop with vision loss; it just changes.
That's right. And that's what so many people look for. I mean, we know that the reality is, if somebody is new to blindness, or the average person may just want to do things, get out, and not necessarily be an advocate, not necessarily be into the whole knowledge on keeping up on their situation. Maybe they're that person that says there's nothing that can be done for me. I just want to live my life and enjoy myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that I have seen over my years of being involved with CCB, the different chapters I've been a part of, from Toronto, London. But this can be many things for each person. Or if you're excited for one thing, for example, hey man, like curling is the staple sport that CCB gets behind, not the only.
Yes.
Game nights or whatever it might be. There are different things that people get involved with, and something along the way that you will like. No, maybe you won't like everything, but also that advocacy piece that so many are interested in is a real benefit. I want to and I don't know, Jim, maybe you have something you want to throw in there, feel free. But one of the things I'd like you to address too, because we know our real strength is in partnerships and knowing
Yes.
what's going on with others, being aware, but also standing and hand to hand saying, let's take on this challenge. This is something we all need to do. You mentioned, fighting blindness.
Yes. No, and we, there's many other organizations that we do partner with, Vision Loss Rehab, CNIB, there's just so much out there that's personally you really struggle to do anything, but as a team, there's probably very few things that you can't change if you really put your mind to it. And we look at the importance of the importance and the value of our partnerships, because without those partnerships, we wouldn't be here. And we understand that as the world grows and as government continues to evolve, that's what they're looking for as well. More of that partnership, and so they can address the blindness community at large, and that's what they're looking for more and more all the time.
So what things is CCB looking for? Obviously memberships. Maybe you can tell us how people can look for a chapter near them, but is there volunteers needed?
Volunteers are always needed, and volunteers are at the core of our program. And perfect example is we're running our curling bonspiel in Sydney, Nova Scotia this week. It's our national visually impaired curling bonspiel. And it used to be in Ottawa every year, but this year it's in Sydney, Nova Scotia. We were able to move it down there successfully, and it comes on the back of Sydney hosting the Scotties Tournament of Hearts last year.
Right. Yes.
So, so many of those volunteers have just flipped over to work with the CCB and the CCB in the Sydney chapter, and by all reports I've got, everything is going very well, and it's so nice to see. The other wonderful thing is for those who live in Atlantic Canada, in May every year, our Atlantic Canada residents have the Atlantic Sports and Recreation Weekend, which happens every year during the Victoria Day weekend, and my goodness, I've been there the last couple of years, and I'm just amazed at how intense the participation is to all of the games, and it's very heartwarming to see that people really getting involved.
And I think it's such a credit to being involved, because these things can't happen without all these partnerships, without all these people who sit down like you guys at the table. How's this going to work? Like what you said about the curling and the flipping over of volunteers. You go from one really cool experience to now doing something really different that so many of these volunteers may not even realize is there.
Right. No, it's
glorious.
It makes you feel so good that so many are involved, and a lot of them in sports that they probably have never felt they could do before, but once they lost their vision, but surprise to them, they push the limits, and that's what we're all about.
I think that's one of the most amazing things, seeing family, friends, and of course I found this with doing theater stuff with people who were new to blindness, and people who thought this was it for them. When they went blind, what are they going to do? Well, maybe sit home, and they're out, whether it's doing sport, whether it's acting, whether it's public speaking, whether it's just being on a board of a group or a chapter of CCB, something so crucial, but making that person get out there, get involved. And for so many families, partners of that person, thank goodness. Before we let you go, Jim, initiatives. What's coming up? What calls to actions do you have for us?
So CCB is having a major event in Vision Month, which is May, and we'll be doing another one in October this year. So we're doing two major events.
Nice.
Our partners at Fighting Blindness Canada are doing many webinars along the way, and as usual, we're supporting everything they do, and they're supporting everything we do. So we're working very closely together with Fighting
We'll
Blindness
keep an
Canada.
eye. Yeah, we'll keep an eye for May and October events as you guys announce them, Jim. We'll try to get you back here. Thanks a lot for the time, especially with such a busy week going on. Happy White Cane Week. Jim Tokas, CCB.
Thank you, Kelly.
So, folks, you can join the Canadian Council of the Blind. Check out their website, ccbnational.net. That's where you can get all the information that you could want to. You could learn about the advocacy initiatives, what's happening, White Cane Week events, and simply, folks, how the heck to get involved. White Cane Week runs this year from February 2nd to the 8th, 2025. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, nothing's stopping you. Proudly carry that White Cane Week with you year round. I welcome in Nisreen Abdul-Majid now. How are you today?
Hi.
How's the eye?
Pretty good.
How's the eye on your favorite friend's social media, which never ceases to amaze you, is my understanding?
It's bizarre, man. It's bizarre. When I start to think that I've seen it all, the internet surprises me. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I feel like especially Instagram and TikTok, but that's all I'm saying.
So does it become a nuisance when you say that, to where you take a break? Like, what is your system to say, okay, enough of this today?
Exactly. That's exactly what I do. Like yesterday I was scrolling through, and when I saw this article that I'm about to share with you, I closed my phone, I threw it on the couch, and I'm like, I'm done for today.
Wow. Oh, this has got to be a powerful item, enough to turn you off, enough to say, forget it, I'm out of here.
There's so many stories out there nowadays, and nothing surprises me anymore. It gets exhausting because you're like, people are crazy out there. But anyway, let me get to this article.
I know I've been getting like that, with my travels on X, trying to get stuff done, promote the show, and it's just constant politics, the world we're in. I had to take a break from watching news for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just, I know I got to check it out. Every day I've got to do my news gathering. However, there comes a point where I got to just stop, because I was catching myself almost seemingly need to check almost every hour what's going on, where are we at, whether it be on Twitter or whether it be on TV or listening through one of the news services online.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get into reading, I'd like to welcome Alex Smythe in with us if he's ready to go. I'd like him to take in this and maybe get some reaction from Alex. Alex, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me on early, Kelly.
Yeah, I figured to catch you, off guard. Nisreen.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we want your input on this too. I'm curious.
Okay.
So, a strange case of harassment has surfaced in Wales, where a woman has pleaded guilty to sending a series of farting videos to her boyfriend's ex. A 25-year-old Rhiannon Evans admitted to sending at least 8 videos to 39-year-old Deborah Reithert, where Evans could be seen laughing while passing gas directly into the camera lens. The court heard that Evans sent the videos to Reithert as an act of revenge, feeling that her partner was being treated unfairly in a child custody dispute. Prosecutors described the actions as, quote-unquote, purely malicious, while Evans' lawyer argued the videos were sent after Evans had been drinking and without the intent to cause harm. In the end, Evans was fined approximately $400, with part of that going to compensate Reithert. She was also given a 2-year restraining order, 15 rehabilitation sessions, and instructed to stay alcohol-free for 2 months. While Evans may have thought the videos were just a way to vent her frustrations, the court clearly felt otherwise, with significant consequences for her actions. Now, I was looking on Instagram and I saw maybe 80% saying, this is wrong to charge her for something like this. This is wrong to charge her for something like this. This is bizarre, though. I mean, this is about a child custody dispute, but this is like a childish action. This is like pettiness to another level.
Wow. It's just so, I mean, obviously what you just said, Nisreen, but I'm all shook up by the 80% that say, oh, you shouldn't be charged for doing
There's,
folks,
oh,
I don't
boy,
care
like
what
all
you're
the
doing.
comments.
You're harassing somebody.
Yeah, it's harassment at the end of the day.
And even if you think what is going on with this custody thing is unfair, how are you helping? How in any capacity, whether you're sending this kind of video or just swearing at a person or even just voicing your opinion and thrusting that on the person and harassing them, I don't care if you're just saying, I disagree with what you're doing, you're creepy, you're stupid, unless this person is initiating contact with you. So what do you think about me trying to make things tough for him to see the child? Ha, ha, ha. And you're defending yourself and your person. This is harassment, Alex.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no excuse to it. I come across this story. I heard about this story the other day. Yeah, I 100% agree. Obviously, you do something. You're not sending one video. You're sending, what was it, 8 videos? So
8.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, you could maybe get away with one. Maybe get away with one, but after the second one, you're in trouble there. And again, it's like, oh, the defensive, oh, she was drinking, oh, it was, why do we have to hold people accountable? Because you're still responsible for your actions, even if you're drunk.
Exactly, exactly.
That's very slippery. You were drinking. We don't have to hold you accountable. What happens to the day? Well, you were drinking and driving, so we don't have to hold you accountable for killing 4 people. Like that. Like, come on.
I think people's perspective on this and why people were saying, okay, let her go. It's not a big deal. It's not that serious. It's just that there's so many people on social media that show worse and don't get charged for it. And it's sad to say, but at the end of the day, she did harass the boyfriend's ex, and I'm just curious if she's still with the boyfriend at this point.
Well, I'm sure he wasn't too happy,
right?
Especially with this, because I'm sure that extended to his visitation. But it's an interesting point you make, because I know people get desensitized by the fact that there's no repercussions, and so many people get online and become some kind of, well, I have a platform, I have a right to speak. People, look, I've got X number of followers. Look at me. And I think people got to understand the joke level. You're entertainment. You're a bad joke. And when people rein in on something like that, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of skewed viewpoints. Thanks, Niz.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nisreen Abdul-Majid hanging out with us on the show, bringing an item for us to have an interesting chat about always, and stopping to think about, okay, time to turn the phone off, time to shut the computer down, but mostly just get off of social media. Folks, you can email us with your opinions and your thoughts, kellyco@ami.ca. You can call us at 1-866-509-4545. Always would like to get a chance to hear from you when you have a few moments. On Parasport Nation, AMI's sports show, Alex Smythe spotlights upcoming parasport events in Canada and abroad, pulling back the curtain on how parasports are played. Parasport Nation, of course, part of Kelly and Company, Tuesdays and Fridays right here on AMI Audio, and available to you as a standalone podcast and audio video podcast on YouTube. Alex, thanks for being with us again. And sir, where do we want to start? What's coming up today?
Yeah, so we had a chance last week to catch up with a former para kayaker, now a para alpine skier and member of the Team Canada's development team, Andy Nelson. So we chatted with her on a variety of things, from transitioning from one para sport where she representing Canada at the Paralympics to pursuing another passion and following that avenue, as well as also exploring and reacting to some news that came out yesterday, the fact that the Para-Alpine World Championships have canceled their downhill events due to poor conditions in Slovenia where they were being held. There was also another international able-bodied competition that was supposed to be held there. They moved to another location, but the para competition stayed in Slovenia, and as a result, they had to cancel their downhill ski events. So me and Nathan kind of reacted to that news, kind of gave our points, shared our thoughts and opinions on that decision and just that disconnect between still able-bodied sports and then the parasport world that we see it on the international stage.
I'm interested, and I don't obviously want you to give too much away. People can hang in here and to listen to Parasport Nation coming up here shortly. But I find it interesting because so many things you stop and say, well, of course, they're going to move that event. But when it comes to the para event, well, and you don't know, is it, in their viewpoint, too arduous to move it? Is there things to consider that make you stop and say whether it's housing people due to the accessibility issue? I have no idea, but it throws me back to times when, it's just easier to cancel it. Well, hold it. This has to be an event. It's accredited, a legitimate event. It's got to be held.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, so there hasn't truly been like a full formal announcement. Like this is coming through Instagram post and then the athlete's reaction. And the wording I find very interesting because they say, well, the downhill events have been canceled. Well, this is the Para-Alpine World Championships. What other events are there other than the downhill one? And they also show, and a lot of the posts have a side-by-side comparison of what the course looks like for the able-bodied competition and the Para-Alpine competition. And there's hardly any snow there. So we talk about these different things. Like obviously accessibility is something unique that has to be taken into account. But there's also that funding issue. There's also the logistics, especially that last minute switch and trying to find locations that you can house people, you can transport people, you can set up like an emergency event so quickly, especially when it's something like poor snow conditions. Because we even referenced, Vancouver in 2010. It was one of like the strangest weather patterns in the winter that Vancouver didn't have snow and they had to make it and ship it in and things like that. There's ways to go around it, but you have to have the right infrastructure in place to be able to do that.
Well, Alex, we look forward to the show. We'll stick around, tune into it. Thanks, Alex Smythe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks as always.
Remember, folks, Parasport Nation, part of Kelly and Company, coming up on Tuesdays and Fridays on AMI Audio and available as a video podcast on YouTube and, of course, an audio podcast. Speaking of, remember to check out our podcast from your platform of choice and give us a rating and review if you would. Hey, on YouTube, subscribe, please, to the Kelly and Company YouTube page. Appreciate it. On our next program, it's another day of the Kelly and Company Bouquet. We explore creative ways to demonstrate love to your family with Lucia Belafonte. And Jenny Bovard is here with her best and worst romantic stories. Oh boy. Feel comfortable to share yours with us too if you would. Join in the fun. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm waving at you.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.